Hey there, friends. Welcome back. It's Thursday edition of Liquid Lunch on Biz TV. I'm joined by former Congressman Vito Fossella, Congressman Emeritus Vito Fossella. You know, I have been raging on this show for months now that this presidential election is not a tale of two parties. It's not a tale of two candidates. It's really boiled down to a tale of two countries. Do you want to be progressive, liberal, eliminate planes, trains, and automobiles, or do you want lower taxes, a great economy, borders, and keeping America safe, and more importantly here in New York, cops? It's really good versus evil. It's capitalism versus socialism. And Vito, to break it down, a constituency of our country right now who I really don't understand, the Jewish vote has gone, it seems, for Democrats in this race, but I feel like Donald Trump has done, you know, a tremendous amount of great things for Israel. And we bring in the good Rabbi right now to break it down for us. Rabbi, how are you today?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
So you're down in Maryland. Give us your overview of what you saw, and then I'd love to know, you know, your thoughts on what influences different aspects of the voters. Well,
you know how you just said that there are two countries? There really are two Jewish votes. I mean, you're up in Staten Island, especially over in Borough Park, Brooklyn, and Williamsburg. You got the Orthodox community. The Orthodox community is interested in traditional Jewish values and traditional values in general and what's good for America. And that's really, you know, that's the Jewish vote based on Judaism. And then you've got an entirely different Jewish vote, which is based on progressivism. The movement in Judaism called the Reform Judaism started off saying, we're going to look for improvement on the Bible. And once you start trying to improve that which is already perfect, you end up messing things up. And we're seeing that happen, because any new idea that comes along, they want to hop aboard and call it a Jewish value.
So we're speaking to Rabbi Yaakov Menken, Managing Director of the Coalition for Jewish Values. Vito, I know that you had some serious support from the Jewish community when you ran. Is it split like that, in your view, from the candidate standpoint?
Yeah, I was very lucky to have support from among many different groups. I'm not an identity politics guy, so I don't try to go down that route, but I shared significant support by the Orthodox Jewish community and many who are not in the Orthodox community. I just try to put it on the line as to what I stood for, what I believed. Strong economy, strong national security. At that time, you know, fortunately these days, the Middle East is much less settled, a lot more settled, thanks to Donald Trump, by the way, because of his peace accord. But there were decades, and the Rabbi knows as well as anybody, where Israel was our only true, reliable ally in the Middle East, and they were under siege. And I thought it was important, probably one of the most important foreign policy things to do, is to stand side by side with Israel, despite the attacks and all that was going on. So I think that when you lay it out and try to bring people together, you can be successful, not just with obviously the Jewish group, but for most people I found think along the same lines. And with respect to the Rabbi was saying about traditional values, there are a lot of things that have stood the test of time, and I believe will stand the test of time. And along comes the newest best idea that often fails miserably. But I'll let the Rabbi, this is his time. Take it away, Rabbi.
Yeah, tell us your thoughts on, you know, progressivism versus, you know, American liberty.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say the congressman is absolutely right. You know, it's an oversimplification when you say it's, you know, the Orthodox are this way and the non-Orthodox are that way. It's obviously not true. And there's a lot of people who are not Orthodox who we hear from all the time at Coalition for Jewish Values, because they have their heads on straight on Jewish values. They're not Orthodox, but they want to be part of an organization that stands up for what they believe in, and that's what we try to do. As far as progressivism, it's very sad that that has become the value. Now, when I say, you know, like, you know, the Jewish left or that other side, it is certainly the dominant school of thought in the Reform movement and the Reform leadership. And even that occasional, very politically conservative Reform rabbi will agree with that and tell you so. It's the most liberal political denomination in America, sadly, to the point that they've completely replaced what is Judaism about with what does progressivism believe. Climate change, gun control, abortion, immigration, they're all over it. And of course, that has nothing to do with what traditional Judaism has always believed. We're very strongly pro-life, pro-family, I mean, all those things, of course. Progressivism, honestly, this idea that we're going to find a new idea, you know, King Solomon said it best, there's nothing new under the sun. That when you think you're going to come up with some new idea, sometimes you're just recycling an old idea. A lot of the stuff that progressivism is pushing are things that are new to America because America used to hold to a set of values that the Founding Fathers got from the Bible, to put it straight.
Yeah. Hey, Rabbi, you guys, the Coalition for Jewish Values, the largest rabbinic public policy organization in America. And I wonder, I have, you know, lots of Jewish friends, one in particular who's like totally anti-Trump. And when I ask this simple question, how does hating Trump square up with your religious beliefs when it appears on the surface that he's done so many great things for your homeland of Israel?
I'm not going to claim that I get it any better than you do, because you look at what this president's track record has been on the Jews and Israel. The idea that Jewish leftists are calling him a racist and an anti-Semite, it's just absolutely ludicrous. And anybody who's willing to think rationally and think impartially and think by a neutral set of values already knows that.
And where is the, you know, wherein do you think is that line? Is there a line of demarcation, Rabbi, where you sort of stand, you and you, let's call it your group, traditional values, stand on one side, and there are others who will say we're not crossing that line to stand united with what you believe to be true, conceived in liberty, conceived in more traditional values. Is there such a thing?
If there's a line, I would call it the progressivist line. And why is it that progressivism, you know, the idea that they have this intersectionality and the identity politics that automatically says that we have to give deference to people of color. But meanwhile, Jews who fled Iraq because of persecution are considered white because they're Jews. But meanwhile, the Iraqi persecutors, the descendants of the people who drove them out in the first place, now they come over to America and they're deemed oppressed people of color. It makes no sense at all, does it?
No, it sure doesn't. I think we all saw Donald Trump in the last 4 years. He's taken the African American vote from 8% to now it's being projected at 16%. And it sure looks like the results drove some people in a constituency that was kind of, you know, really planted there and moved them. Are there ways that we can move some of the Jewish vote to, you know, away from progressivism?
Well, honestly, it happened. You know, right after the election, a poll came out produced by the ultra-left J Street organization, which Alan West correctly described as a pro-Palestinian Jewish organization. And their poll showed that support for Trump had declined. And you knew that was ridiculous. Well, it turns out that they under-surveyed the Orthodox, surprise, surprise, because everybody knows how the Orthodox are going to vote. When you actually do an honest look, whether it's the Republican Jewish Coalition's survey or the AP's exit polls in Florida, the Jewish vote for Trump went up from somewhere in the low 20s to 30% this time around. That's a very dramatic shift for the Jewish community. It's very unfortunate that that is still 1 to 2 for Biden. Biden had 60% support. And that's very unfortunate because Trump certainly deserved anybody who supported traditional values or anybody who supported Israel had to recognize what this president had done.
And you know, one thing, Rabbi, is the notion that if you do something different, the end of civilization is going to happen overnight. That was like, for example, moving the embassy to Jerusalem. There was so much fighting, and this is going to destroy the Middle East. This is going to destroy everything that we fought for. If anything, not only was it long overdue and done correctly, but it actually brought about a better and more sustained peace in the Middle East than we've experienced over the last 50 years or so.
That's 100%. I mean, Trump did amazing things by refusing to accept the conventional wisdom as somehow true. I'd be tempted to say the gospel, but somebody in your end might get offended.
No,
we're all on the same page.
I'm just messing
we don't
with
talk
you,
about religion or politics here.
Yeah, but
all right, Rabbi, we got to leave it at that. We really appreciate your time today. Some great commentary. Thank you very much. We got to have you back.
100%. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back and wrap up today's Thursday edition of Liquid Lunch right after this.